It's going to crackle and all sorts of things anyway. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome in Buysdorp. We're going to be in a town today. Look at their management structures, their way of doing, hopefully in every sense of the word, in every aspect of what it implies and what it entails. They won't allow us to build houses. They say that this land belongs to them. They at first did not allow our children to go to their school. We say, thanks to our ancestor and great chief called Sarakalala, this is where our people were from ancient times. These are the people from Talane saying what I'm now sharing with you. And they're saying this about the Buys people. And the Talane people occupy one small corner of Buys land, of those 11,000 hectares, of those 4 farms that I mentioned, including Mara and Buysdorp. What they're saying, they don't use the term, but what they're reflecting and experiencing is discrimination. They were, and to an extent still are.
Sorry, may I interrupt just one more time? We need to put the mic on because we're recording. So, the lecture, so if you don't mind. Last interruption, I promise.
When are you serving tea?
You can come to my office. I'll happily give you all tea.
I've got a little,
with a bit of gin.
Goodie.
Nadia, I've got a little bit of bad news though for you.
What?
Probably the most significant part of what I was going to share this morning I've said already. It's not going to be recorded. I'm joking.
Thank God for a sense of humor. There we go. Okay, I'm going to leave you.
Don't you want to take over? You know the stuff.
No, I'm good.
Okay, let's go.
I just know that the guys in Kenya, the guys in Eastern Cape, the guys in Koi, he's too busy for my liking.
Have you paid to attend this course?
No. I have the benefit of listening for free, so I'd rather use. So you can just strap it out of the back then.
Wait, should we go around the left-hand side?
Okay.
It's
cool. It's
less vulnerable over there.
Yeah. It's all up to you. Yeah. Then just switch it over.
Here we go.
It's very sensitive.
How are we doing? Hello. I think it's this particular little connection is not firm, it's not secure. Tuck away.
Okay, speak again, bro.
Hello, 1, 2, nothing.
There you go.
Yeah, just louder. Hello, 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 hello. No.
Hello, Bob.
We're just having a chat, meeting each other. Hello. Hello.
Yes. Yes.
Can Bob sing?
Yeah.
I can.
The echo.
Basically, I'm not a good singer. Basically.
Oh. Wow. That's clever. Yeah, so
You even think I'm clever?
you are clever. That's what.
Are you referring to a tenor?
Did you hear this?
Are you a bass or a tenor?
Some of my Afrikaans students would carry on with this base thing as we're driving back from Buysdorp. They would say, like fluorescent lights on Buysligte. At least you cast some light upon with the Buysligte. And then there's a little saying in Afrikaans that by accident, per abuis. Said per abuis, we happened to be at Buysdorp. By accident. And they say, you know, we base most of this on the knowledge that we acquired in the archives. Palani is this small parcel of land, and these people have been providing domestic and agricultural labor for the bases for as long as they have been there. And this name of the chief Sarakalala is significant, and tomorrow I'm going to do more of the land claims aspect of it as we wrap up, and that's quite an important chapter in this base narrative or saga, if you like. But yes, there is a Sarakalala river. It runs right through the middle of this property, through the base. So they can't argue that away. In fact, they tried to. They even gave it a different name. They have a local little name for this river. But there is a Sarakalala, and yes, there were Sarakalala people in that area many, many years ago. And yes, they have been working for the bases. But the bases say, this is our property, this is our land. And we'll actually look at the documentation that confirms the fact that before 1913, that was the Natives Land Act. After 1913, before this new, very new legislation that's about to be promulgated, that was the cut-off date, that any land that was taken or occupied or expropriated after 1913, the original occupiers, mostly black South Africans, had a significant legal say to that on that land. But this land was acquired officially by documentation. I mentioned the wrong monarch. It was Edward, the eventually son of King Edward, signed off on that. And under the Transvaal Republic, it was given to them by Paul Kreer. Okay, 1888, they acquired the land, and that government, the Dutch government, if you like, actually signed off officially, this is your land, held in trust for you, as we said yesterday, in perpetuity. But then the English took over, particularly after the Second Anglo War, but also under that administration, and they actually gave them the documentation, and the bases by now had become wise enough to acquire the assistance of a lawyer in town. Luke Trichard was developing as a small village by at that stage. There was a legal person there, and they went down to Pretoria and had an audience with the British administration, and then got the documentation confirmed, which the Dutch government or the Republic initially gave them. So they had that. And this was pre-1913, which according to the existing legislation and the existing constitution, before this adjustment in the constitution is going to be, it's going to be made. Although they opened this up for comment and discussion just before Christmas. It's almost the worst kind of time of year to get public participation in commenting on adjustment to our constitution. And you need a two-thirds majority for that in Parliament, and they will get it. The government will get that because the Red Berets will also assist them, and they'll get the two-thirds. So that's going to happen within weeks or at least months. But at the moment, and these are the kinds of rules that we were operating according to doing land claim research, that the basis, given that they had this confirmed in 1902, again 1908, long before the 1913 Native Land Act. So nobody had a claim on that. That was irrelevant then. We'll have to see what happens now when the constitution is changed or the legislation is adapted. But the base slip is shown. I mean, I've been talking about base, and you might have conjured up this image of this almost idealistic, romantic little village of these people looking after themselves and being exclusive and reclusive and something. But you've got this friction internally. And in 1994, when South African democracy came, things changed. Now the bases were, let me just say, up to that point, the Talani children went to school, in inverted commas, in a zinc, dilapidated sort of shelter almost in Talani, because the basis said, this is our property. That's what I wanted to say just now. And you remember I might have mentioned, they call it die plaas, ons plaas, the farm, our farm. And there are 4 farms, these 11,000 hectares. And they say, like any other farmer, we own this property, and you are labourers. You're not part owners of this land. You work for us, and we're allowing you to stay over in this little parcel, on this little parcel of land, on our farm. So you have no claim to this farm. You're labourers, you're tenants at the best. 1994 came with democracy, and now the new government, of course, wanted to know what was going on in this little village. What's happening to, and Talani went straight to Lutriga, the town. The metropole of Lutriga has become, all the municipalities in the country suddenly reached into the rural areas. It wasn't just the towns and cities anymore. Municipality now was the entire region, and they now border on each other. The entire country is now large municipalities. And this one was Ward 1 of Lutriga Makado, as it became known later. The biggest, incidentally, I checked as far as was possible, this must be the biggest ward of any local government, municipality, call it what you may, in the world. It reaches all the way from Lutriga, 70 kilometers beyond Buysdorp, and they're now part of Ward 1. Whereas they see themselves as being autonomous. They do their own affairs, and we'll do this a little bit more sequentially now, how they organize their affairs there. Now suddenly there are 5,000 voters for Ward 1, within which 350, well, less, adults who can vote, 18 or over. Less than 300 bases now vote with 5,000 people. So they got 2 representatives after that first local election. And obviously, almost, or logically, neither of those 2 represent are their people, they say. And they say additionally, they don't represent us. They are different people. They don't even know what's going on in Buysdorp. And now that municipality and those councillors cause, according to the basis, them a lot of trouble. And they say, we're coming to do your streets, we're coming to look after your affairs, we're coming with bulldozers. And the basis says, stay off our farm. It's no business of the municipality to come and grade our, although roads are poor most of the time, and the water's reticulation is not all that predictable or dependable, some of the time. They say, you stay out. This is our land, this is what we do, we're autonomous. But the Makado councillors do not recognize this fact that they are. Now here's a bit of irony. Up to 1994, the idea of a Buysdorp, that parcel of land, being autonomous and governing their own affairs, fitted beautifully with the ideology in terms of little homeland, little Bantustan, not a Bantustan, but a little homeland. Yeah, you're independent. This is what we're trying to do in this country, give everybody independence, wherever they are, ethnic group wise. And then came 94, and now it's totally unacceptable. So, question marks as far as the base people are concerned, as far as that's concerned. This is what I was going to do up in the steps in Soutpansberg. I was going to continue, but we've got images that we can all look at. I'll be careful. Okay, let's just dwell on this. This is what you would have missed on the steps. Just look at the environment. Just to be there. Forget about, in a sense, the people or any questions or problems in that. Just to be in that area is absolutely wonderful. Look at the baobab on the left bottom there. Not the biggest hill, but they're all over that place. If you're prepared to climb and crawl and hike a bit, you find beautiful beautiful old baobabs. In the place right in the mountains where I used to stay with my students, I used to stop 7 kilometers from that. It's just very rustic bungalows a friend of mine had right in the mountains along the Soutpansberg field, right? Almost, well, on the way to the border of Zimbabwe. I used to stop 7 k's from that destination and turn around the bus and I said, I've got some news for you. You want the good news or the bad news? They said the good news was, I said, you're moving into, idealistic, you're moving into an area, look at the majestic mountains and next to the river, etc., etc. And the bad news, I said, no cell phone reception, no television, no hot water, no hot running water. If you want water, you have to do you know a donkey? It's a way of, with firewood, making hot water. I said, if you want a bath or shower or anything, you need to think about it an hour and a half before you need a fire. And they all turned, I said, no, you have 5 minutes. Hello, love. I'm going into this primitive area. I won't be able to talk to you for a week or 2. I hope all is well. Please think of me. We are now moving off into this place. Goodbye. Vegetation, just a small example, but it's such a variety, such a rich environment. So this is just to remind us now, I've shown this before. Remember our chat about Goedgedacht that was attacked by the vendor at that stage. They had to evacuate and go to Skommersdal to the fort for their own protection. Then it moved to Kranspoort, and eventually that mission station, and some of the buildings remain, as I showed you, on Kranspoort. It's right next door, almost to the base properties. And that was, as I mentioned, when the Dutch reformed eventually took over the mission. They, in later years, handed this over to the local population. It was the first ever such property transfer, if you like, that happened in South Africa, long before it became quite a major kind of issue. So Kranspoort is still there. And the properties, the 4 farms, you remember this is Buysdorp, actually on the documentation of Buysdorp with a TS, Plaats, Mara, plus some bitterness because of their hardships and suffering when they first arrived there from the biblical Mara. And then Buysdorp. This is where the this is where those scattered houses and the agricultural activity is centered there. The road from east to west goes through Mara and then you turn off into what is now Buysdorp. This Buyshoek is also there, but they let that out to a neighbouring farmer. At first, because they weren't really money-wise or finance-wise at that stage, they let the farmer have it for a couple of £1,000 a year just to have income. Until this lawyer friend of theirs in town started looking at their affairs, set up a constitution for them incidentally, which we'll just show a little bit of, and said, hey you guys, you need to become market related with this kind of thing. So now they are receiving market related money from this farmer, and that goes into the communal finances of the town. Incidentally, no single person, no single base owns property in that town. You are allowed by the management committee to access a piece of land upon which you can build your house and where you can do your vegetable garden and so on. And these allotments, sites, plots, whatever you like, are 100 meters by 200 meters in size. And you can only access that through the management committee. As I said, if you're a base, born base, descended from a base, married to a base. And you can vote in these structures if you, those 3 things, but if you're over 18 years old. And you vote every 3 years, they vote for a new management committee. And they manage all the affairs. But it's amazing the management structures that they developed over the years. It's somewhat like a modern day parliament. There's an upper house and ritual or ceremonial family heads. There's a meeting of general meeting of all the bases if they want to come. I've got a little diagram which will show you. So that money is very welcome, and with that money and other kinds of income, they then they have the responsibility to do the management committee to look after the roads, to see to the water, to issue permits for hunting. They have a significant part of those mountains, the Soutpansberg mountains, and up in the mountains, if you climb, get to climb quite a lot, there's still kudu and all kinds of things. And they don't all have, not many, well, only a few of them have rifles. But they have designated one or two such persons, but those two bases too must, from the management committee during the hunting season, must get the permission. They govern all those sorts of affairs. Labour problems, any other issues. Upkeep of the community hall, and some base management committee. So, 100 by 200 meters. You remember Sylvian phoned me just before I came here on Monday and said, "You are my brother, aren't you?" And then I said to him, "Yes." And then I followed up with this and said, "If I'm a brother, I'm a base. I'm coming for my parcel of land because I want to set up a nice little mountain lodge up there." And he was silent for a while. I said, "Hello, Simeon. If you are based and you get allocated such a 100 by 200 meter piece of land, you have to pay taxes to the committee. And that's another source of income. Taxes for the residents, listen to this, per year, 60 rand. And here's the really bad news. If you're based but you are working in Johannesburg and you're not living there permanently, then you have to pay much, much more. Because you're not living there and supporting your community. Then you have to pay 120 rand. So, last year, not sure about January 20. Horrendous. Okay. Could I ask incidentally, we've been delayed by X number of minutes. Can we use our time still, even if we go over the, are you comfortable with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at the old Oma in the middle. She's now, this year will be 103 years old, I think, Oma Serena. But Jasper is one of the local characters. I chatted to him, he said, every time I've been coming here for so long and I find him sitting on a little shop smoking his whatever, he rolls little things, I'm not going to say what, and that's the smoke that's coming out. I said, Jasper, how do you do it? You every time I come here, you look exactly the same. He says, I can't do it. He says, I'm never going to do it. This is where I am, this is my place. Gideon, I mentioned before, remember we quoted him and said, we're people of the middle world, we're more South African than any other people in this country. Brenda is a shop owner, and old Simeon I've referred to so often. He was the chairman that I got to know when I started functioning in that area. Now he's a direct descendant of Coenraad de Buys. I'll show you the genealogy, if some of you have it. And he descends directly through Michael, the son of Coenraad. He's a descendant of this great Hercules, the living Hercules. Also an impressive looking individual, although he's probably 80 years old by now, but not retired, still very active in his lands and his everything else. He used to do his vegetables and take that to the market in Utrecht in his bakkie. And on the tailgate he would display, he wouldn't give it to any other of the stall owners there. He would have on his bakkie, and people knew eventually that you have to go to Simon's bakkie if you really want fresh, wonderful carrots and whatever else. Lay of the land. Aerial photographs. You remember I showed you Buysdorp, Middelstad and Onderstad on the Gourits River. That on the left is more or less a lay of the land. This is a road that bypasses. And I added that coloured in photograph on the right. The red markings are cement irrigation furrows that they added later. In the middle, in the blue, would be or would have been a Sarakalala River. And from that river and the two fountains in the mountain that I mentioned before is where they access their water. Used to. It's now dry. Fountains are unpredictable. One has dried up totally. So that green is now actually incorrect. It's correct. It displays a totally wrong image at this stage. So we've said that this is where the land is. On the Sarakalala River, this land given to them in 1888 by Kruger. And then eventually, when the British took over, the Deputy Governor and Minister of Lands on behalf of His Majesty Edward VII also confirmed that this land is theirs. Look at the last few words, that they possess, they shall possess this land in perpetuity. The places, as they settled there in those early days, before 1888, before it officially became theirs, they were there already. But slowly but surely, this place started visually develop the sort of signs of sedentist or permanent living in that area. That's Simeon again, and his lands before the drought, the terrible drought came. See the carrots, see all the other vegetables. That's what he used to do very actively and very successfully. From the mid, about 1950s, the original structures, the wattle and dog, simply clay buildings, started being replaced by more permanent brick houses. And this was at that time that they refused the Talani permission. I mean, the Talani were also then here to build themselves, make the bricks and build themselves more permanent and better structures, and they were refused by the basis that you can't do it. This is on the class, you're a worker here. You can't just put up permanent brick houses. This has changed. They have now started building those houses, and I suppose the basis of accommodating them a little bit more. And I think I mentioned in passing that you have this internal conflict almost, or juxtaposition of the oldies, Simeon and his cronies, the first chair and management committee members, and now the young Turks, like the Neil Armstrong types. Okay, he was born on that day, so yes. The church, look at the bottom, Mara, they called it first. When they first set up their church, that's what it more or less still looks like now. It was sort of improved upon in 1972. And that is a very important space, important structure in their lives. Every single day, the doors stay open, people go there to meditate or pray. The Sunday services are incredible experience. You have to have stamina. It carries on for hours and hours. And the singing, which I didn't record because I didn't want to be intrusive in a service, the singing is something exceptional. Now I'm talking about church service. You should attend a funeral. That's a day-long affair. And I think I have a little example of what actually happens from beginning to end of the funeral. I attended the funeral, but again, I'm bringing a little bottle of water with me here. But there, for 6-7 hours, you have access to nothing. You're standing out in the sun in the graveyard or cemetery. Is graveyard an American term? Which one is cemetery? Graveyard. Begraafplaats. Okay, this, what you see structure-wise, except for the private residence, this is Buysdorp. There are 3 shops. The 2 green ones are the same one, so I don't think that's an extra shop. And then there's the primary school, and the church you've seen, I think you've seen the hall. I've got another slide on the hall as well. And scattered homesteads, as I've said several times. You don't gain the impression of Dorp town at all. When you walk or drive through that, you might see a homestead, a house, and then vegetation, or lands, or vegetable patches, and then you have to drive on and you see another house. But these are, as I said, the post office is open once a week for a while. That's also where people congregate to get their pension money or their disability allowances, and that becomes a popular venue. Yes, sir.
In the church, do they stick to Dutch Reformed service, or do they have their own service? Do they sing their songs?
Some of the songs and even hymns are familiar to me, or let's say it would be familiar to us if we're there. Some of them, I must say, I hadn't heard before. Also in the way that they sing. I wish I could as I said, I didn't record because it's intrusive. I can't sit there in the service and say, sing that. I want to take, anthropologist wants to record and sing it. But they've got a way of singing. So if it's a familiar, and I didn't have anything from it, if it's familiar, I wouldn't have sounded familiar because the way they sing. And there's always one or two individuals, a female and or a male or both, that would start off. There's no accompaniment. You'd stand there and they say, we'll sing lied nummer 34. And then the boys would go, and everybody else would also sing. That's the wall again. They named it for the person who gave them this land in the first place, President Olkreer Gedenksaal. And all the meetings take place in that particular hall. That was a conventional residence on the right, the clinic. I say old clinic because in my time, they stopped using it suddenly. I actually went there I thought to meet somebody or to find somebody. There was nobody. It was empty and abandoned. And what had happened that a single parent, female, with her son had moved into there. They said, you can stay in this old place because until we can sort out. She had a problem with her own house, her husband's house, etc., etc. So they moved in there and they were there a few weeks, and the snake came out of the interior somewhere, and short story is the son died from the poison. So she got out, and then the entire community just said, we're not going to use it. It's right next to the church, actually, that building. So that was a need, and I'll get to that now. Now maybe I should just talk about anthropologists and anthropological involvement. Obviously, we as anthropologists obtain access to such communities because we're interested in such. I'm particularly interested in communities at this stage of my activities that seem to be forgotten, invisible, not very high on the agenda of South Africa as such. But then we have to access such a community, and every single step from then on is on their terms. The information we get is their information. And I must mention something that we discussed here the day before, yesterday or the day before. If I talk about them, like now, I'm using their information. That's why I spoke to Simeon a few days, said, look, I'm going to talk here in Cape Town, and I'm talking about you, about us, said after what he said to me. Is that okay? You know the stuff. I've published scientifically, if you like, in international journals. They have access to that very manuscript long before I go public with it, where they have to be comfortable with that. It's, of course, challenging for a researcher, a social scientist, anthropologist particularly, because there's some things that as I mentioned, that reality dictates. These are facts. These are things that I observe. These are things I experience. These are things that some of the people tell me. But some of those things I'm not allowed to write. I'm not allowed to talk because they don't want me to. There's one little out there and I think they trust me and some of us now to the extent that I say, look, this is what we're going to have to. You can't deny that there are a few youngsters in this little village who are using drugs. And we need to say it because we'll never be able to address such a situation, or that they are alcoholics, or that they have a hypertension problem, much more so than any other neighboring community. I actually have a student, an MA student now, who does anthropology of health, or medical anthropology. It's a particular aspect of anthropology. And she lives there now when she does research, and they trust her also. And the reason why they've accepted her, and the reason why she's there, we hope to address this problem. Hypertension. And hoë bloed, as they call it, high blood. Okay? Hoë blood, high blood. Amongst other things. Why just that community? not next door, nobody around. And the incidence, the percentage is much higher, unusually high just for them. So we need to, but that's it, that's the challenge for us, to access them and hopefully to, not just to access, to get the information and run away. We call that, and I spoke in Sweden about this, about these some people, they go in there and they take samples of the people, or they take photographs of the people, or they record their language and analyze them linguistically, and then they get up. Anthropologists call that in and out, or helicopter research. You go in, get what you want, or get what they allow you to get, and then you get up. In and out. Quick and dirty, my students say. We try not to do that. Try to share, to be accepted, and acceptable to the people. So, and this little story started with this old clinic. So that was obviously a need in the country, in the community, which we addressed. But let's just look at some of the housing. Now you're showing you shops and the post office and the church and the walls. These three houses are probably typically as you drive through. Buysdorp, no further comment. That's the visual of what you see and experience there. That's what they used to look like, the houses. We discovered, I had one student, just an honest, just a small project, and her father is an architect, and he assisted her. They went there, and they didn't want to come back. He loved it so much up in the mountains to their father. But they found the remains of the early structures, the wattle daub, or the mud houses that they at first built, and in which many of the Talane people still live in at this stage. Ditto, the irrigation, she looked at that as well. Before, just furrows, earthen sort of channels for them, and then the cement came, and now they're also obviously not being used anymore, not because of the drought, but because beyond these furrows they had copper pipes from the fountains all the way down. Although that also, when they still had water and they had the pipes, this also was a problem, because then they had to, the management committee worked out a roster kind of thing, because now the mountains are up there, and these properties actually start in the foothills of the Soutpansberg. That part of the mountains also theirs, but that's where they have recreation and hunting and stuff like that, and that's where the fountains originate. Then you have the area where these houses are situated, quite fertile, quite high rainfall. Then you cross the tar road that connects Vigo and Mercado, and then you have another large section of Buysdorp where some of them also farm, and Simeon, those vegetables that you saw are actually on the wrong side, as it were, of the furthest south of that main road. And when there was water, they had problems. Now, without water, they all have problems. But the problem when they had water was the following, that they had this roster, this schedule said, okay, person A, right up in the foothills, you are allowed to access the water from 9 till 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. Okay. Then you must close it off. Then it goes down further, then the next person gets the next hour or two as they went down. And as it turned out, behind the road where Simeon was, no water ever came for a while. Why? Because the guys at the top just didn't close off. They went for hours and 2 hours and 3 hours, and beautiful vegetables, beautiful gardens, trees, even fruit trees, beautiful. So a bit of squabbling, a lot of squabbling internally, even when there was water. Typical community, I suppose. You know, managing their own affairs. Okay, so we've discussed this fact that they run their own affairs. You can see the amounts down in the bottom point, 60 rand and 120 rand. The fact that individuals, family members, 18 years or older, who hold lots,